Good evening. Thanks again to everyone for being with us tonight. We very much appreciate your participation in the Michigan Dental Association volunteer leadership, and specifically in the committee that you're involved with. We're going to be talking a little bit about our structure for the Michigan Dental Association and our governance, and giving you kind of some information about what all committees have in common. So I'm going to be sharing my screen, and I'll put that up in just a second. I'm sure you all saw the note that we are recording this. We are recording it for anyone who could not be here tonight so that they can go back and watch the video if they choose to do so. We also will be distributing the slide deck, so if you're the kind of person who likes to write down what you've learned, you will be getting the slide deck. You don't need to take very detailed notes. So let's take a moment and I will share my screen. Take just a moment to get the slideshow up. And here we go. Hopefully everyone is seeing this. Just wanted to let you know, we do have the Q&A enabled. So if you have a question as we go along, I will pause every now and then and look at the Q&A to see if there's something that I should address. So if you have a question, please do feel free to put it into the Q&A box, and we will check that as we go along. I am Karen Burgess. I'm the Executive Director of the Michigan Dental Association. I know that many of you on this call tonight I have met previously. If I haven't met you yet, I certainly look forward to meeting you in the future. Here's what we're going to talk about tonight. Should take an hour or less. Generally, we don't go the full 60 minutes. We're going to start out by talking a little bit about the MDA organization and structure, a little bit about our new strategic plan, then some legal issues that are of interest to all volunteers, and also volunteer conflict of interest. We'll talk briefly about good governance and the principles of good governance, and then we have some highlights from our committee operating manual. Also would like to let you know about some leadership resources available to you, and we'll also be talking about the process of getting to know your committee. So let's go dive right into organization. You know, here's some MDA facts and figures. We have an excellent market share compared to other state societies, and also compared to other professional organizations. At 76.7% of the dentists practicing in the state of Michigan were MDA members at the end of last year. Active licensed members included 4,504 members, and overall, when you were looking at our dentist members, including the retirees, at the end of the year last year, we were at 5,992. We are a 501c6 professional association, a nonprofit association according to the IRS, and we do have 63 employees at the MDA, including the Michigan Dental Association, our for-profit subsidiary, the MDA Foundation, and also our donated dental services. Full dues for the Michigan Dental Association this year is $650 plus a $195 mandatory assessment for our public education campaign. Here's an overview of our structure. You can see the house and the component dental societies up there in the left-hand corner. Our board of trustees. I am the employee that the board employs, and the staff report up to me. And you can see there that there are the committees. And we do have membership, new dentist committee, public relations, continuing education, annual session, legislative and insurance affairs, access to care, 3 peer review committees, including dental care, ethics, and health and well-being. And new this year is our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which will be meeting for the first time in July of this year. It also highlights the subsidiaries, including the Michigan Dental Association Foundation, the Insurance and Financial Group, our DenPAC, the MDA Health Plan, And then IFG does have a committee for endorsed services. So that kind of gives you an overview of the structure of the Michigan Dental Association. Our House of Delegates is made up of volunteer dentists. There are 102 members spread over 12 regions, and we have 26 component dental societies. The House of Delegates has responsibility for advisory resolutions, are the only place where bylaws may be approved. In addition, they're responsible for electing our Board of Trustees and the ADA delegation. Their committees include the nominating committee, made up of one representative per each 12 regions, plus the MDA past president as the chair, the bylaws language review committee, the reference committee, and the committee on credentials, rules, and orders. The Board of Trustees includes the 6 officers as well as 9 at-large trustees. I am an executive director. I am an ex officio member of the board. We have 17 standing committees and 5 board committees. The board is responsible for setting policy, budget, and dues, and as I mentioned previously, the board employs me as the CEO executive director. Here's a quick overview of my responsibilities as the executive director. I'm a non-voting member of many of the volunteer agencies. I'm responsible for staff management. I represent the MDA in public, and I facilitate policy development and supervise implementation of policy. So you can see I work very closely with the Board of Trustees and with all the committees on an ongoing basis. Our related agencies, many of you I'm sure have a lot of familiarity with this. The MDA Board of Trustees, for example, elects the IFG board members annually and can change the IFG bylaws. So if our for-profit subsidiary wants to endorse someone, the endorsements do require MDA Board of Trustees approval. The foundation is our charitable organization. The board elects the foundation board members annually and has oversight over the MDAF bylaws. Our MDA Health Plan is a very healthy multi-employer welfare association, and it's an ERISA qualified plan. We have the responsibility of putting forward the representatives who represent the insurance and financial group, but there's also lay people made up, pardon me, I don't mean lay people, I mean non-volunteers, people who are enrollees in the plan that can serve on the board as well. And then we have our political action committee. So that's kind of the nickel tour of the Michigan Dental Association. The MDA is fairly similar to other state societies, although we do have some differences when it comes to what agencies are responsible for what. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our new strategic plan. It's very exciting to have come to the conclusion of our previous plan, which was 2016 to 2020. We had accomplished a great deal during the last 4 to 5 years, and the board created the new strategic plan with an eye towards building on our previous good work. So let's talk about that. I'm going to highlight mostly the goals and objectives, but you can take a look, and when you see the slide presentation come back, it'll help you understand a little bit about how we're going to get to those things. So goal number 1, obviously for all members, is defining and delivering exceptional member value. And we measure member value through Net Promoter Score. We have an excellent Net Promoter Score at the Michigan Dental Association. The average for associations overall is 21. Our Net Promoter Score is 49 when we measured it last. It is a very volatile score, and there is a lot of variability. So you can see the objective is to improve the score among lagging segments. What's the reason for that? Is we want to make sure that every potential member has things that they will value in terms of what they receive for their membership dollar. So you can see that for this year, as we get started on this plan, one of the biggest things we need to do is to conduct some research and then look at what we offer. Goal 2 is to engage and develop relationships with members. And I think that's a really important aspect of our strategic plan. When you have a market share of 76 or 77%, you want to, of course, increase the number of people who are members, but it's extra important to shift your focus to making sure that all your members are highly satisfied and also engaging with what you're bringing forward. So we're looking at this in 2 ways here through the new strategic plan: member engagement and then leadership engagement. One of the things that we learned in the COVID era is that it's very easy and easier than ever in some ways to be more engaged with the Michigan Dental Association as a result of remote technologies. So whether we're talking about Zoom like we are doing today, or whether we're looking at distributing information through social media, where many of our members already are, those are all things that we can use to increase the feeling of belonging and the value that our members receive. Similarly, same thing with leadership development. We want to ensure a good pipeline going down the future, and we are looking towards deepening that relationship with our volunteer leadership to ensure the vibrancy of the association into the future. Goal 3 is to ensure organizational sustainability. You can see the first objective is enhancing financial outcomes. I've heard it said, no money, no mission. So it is important for the association to be financially sound. And you can see that the way we're looking at doing this is to ensure that our members are aware of our products and services and that they meet their needs so that we can increase the non-dues revenue at the same time that we're increasing the value. Our 5th objective, you can see here, is to increase organizational capacity. We really want to make sure that we're putting our resources into the buckets that our members care the most about. So when it comes to increasing organizational capacity, that hits things like infrastructure, staff resources, budget, volunteer resources. All those things need to be aligned. Goal 4, and this is a new one for us. We had previously had a standalone plan for diversity and inclusion. In the new strategic planning process, we have a goal specifically for understanding and improving diversity, equity, and inclusion at all levels. So you can see we have 2 objectives here. One is to build relationships and increase collaboration with diverse dental populations. And the second one is to increase leadership participation among underrepresented segments. So you can see we're really working on ensuring that our leadership reflects our membership and that we're meeting the needs of all the segments within the membership, whether that is on the basis of gender, racial, ethnic background, occupation, practice setting, etc. Goal 5 is our final goal, is to advocate effectively for the dental profession and the public's oral health. And you can see we've got quite a number of strategies here. The first objective is to engage effectively with legislators, public officials, and other stakeholders. And you can see 8.1 through 8.4 is how we're going to do it. And then objective 9, I think, came about as a result of recognizing that so much of what we do on the advocacy side may be behind the scenes. So we really think it's important for our members to understand the awareness and have an awareness of our advocacy efforts. So you will be seeing a multi-channel member communications plan and expect to hear and read more about our advocacy. So that's our strategic plan. our new one. As you can see, there is a lot in here for committees. As you learn more about your committee or you think about your committee's role over the next year, there's almost something that every committee can do for almost every one of these goals. So that's the framework of how the MDA is moving forward and how your committee is likely to fit in. So that's an opportunity for you to talk about it with your committee chair and your committee director. So let's move on and talk about some legal issues that you need to know about as a volunteer. One of these is the concept of being a fiduciary. As a volunteer in organized dentistry, you hold a special position, a position of trust. And it comes from the Latin, as you can see there on the screen. A fiduciary is someone who stands in a special relation of trust, confidence, or responsibility. And as a committee member, you have fiduciary responsibilities to the Michigan Dental Association. For example, and there are 3 duties. One is the duty of care. So we have the issue of participating actively. In other words, come, be prepared, engage with the discussion. That's participating actively. Acting in the best interest of the MDA means you wear your MDA hat and not have the interest of any organization other than the MDA, but also that you want to be looking out for the association and looking out for our members broadly. You also have the responsibility to act in a fiscally responsible manner, and you'll be happy to know that that really just means to be well informed and make prudent decisions. So you can see here a couple of questions that we often ask or hear is, how does the board treat the information provided by committees? The board does not want to redo committee work, and they shouldn't be doing committee work. They will trust what the committee puts forward, although sometimes they have a little bit broader context information. So you can feel confident that you make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees that they are going to treat that information very seriously. If you don't understand all the financial details, all you need to do is ask questions and behave in a reasonably prudent manner, and you will have fulfilled your responsibility. So that's an overview of the duty of care, which is the first fiduciary responsibility. The second is the duty of loyalty, and this really comes down to both conflict of interest and confidentiality. Every volunteer has the responsibility to avoid conflicts of interest and to disclose potential conflicts of interest if they do come up. They also have the responsibility of keeping MDA information confidential. So we have a couple of questions that come there. Why do volunteers not recognize possible conflicts of interest? One is that it's possible to have a COI that is not related to money. Often people think of conflict of interest as being only financial, but it can be a situation of split loyalty or other kinds of concerns that can cause a conflict of interest. When you talk about the duty of confidentiality, of course, the work of the committee is done pretty much in public and reported in the minutes. The only exception really has to do with things that happen in executive session. And executive session happens when you're talking about proprietary, confidential, or potentially personal information. So if you're talking about a particular person. So we ask the question, what can be revealed about discussions in executive session? Pretty much just what is in the executive session wrap up in the public minutes. So those are the things that are supposed to be kept confidential. Moving on is the duty of obedience, and that is the duty to respond, to act in accordance with our governing documents, including the mission, vision, and core values. And the duty of obedience emphasizes your responsibility to support the decisions that your committee makes and not to undermine them. A common question is, though, well, does that mean that that recommendation stands forever? And the question is, when is it appropriate for a committee member to suggest reconsideration of a committee decision? Generally speaking, if enough time has passed that the situation may have changed, clearly that would be appropriate to reconsider a committee decision. Another opportunity is if there is new information that was not available previously. So it's not wrong to suggest reconsideration of a committee decision. We do it all the time. You shouldn't do it immediately after the vote in hopes to change everybody's mind, though. And I'm like 99.9% joking about that. One thing that probably won't come up for you in your committee, but occasionally it might in CGIA or elsewhere, is the concept of attorney-client privilege. If you were to ever be in an attorney-client privilege discussion, that happens when you're seeking advice from your attorney. In that case, disclosure cannot be compelled, but it's really important that everyone keep that information confidential and that only the people who need to be in the room are there for that discussion. If you keep things in absolute confidence, then attorney-client privilege will be maintained. And the question you often hear is, with whom can you discuss a topic that was addressed in an attorney-client session? Only with others who were in the room at the time. Another issue that has been a big issue for organized dentistry, although it seems, I started with the American Dental Association in 1996, antitrust was a huge conversation at that point in time, particularly as dental insurance and dental managed care was becoming more prevalent. It does feel that there are fewer concerns about antitrust today, although it still is an issue, particularly around practice models or around dental benefits programs. But I just wanted to give you a very brief overview that antitrust issues occur when two or more independent dentists or entities engage in joint activities. And that joint activity has the impact of restraining competition, either illegal per se on the face of it, or the rule of reason says that it is something that will have that impact. The thing that's interesting about antitrust is that it can be enforced by the Justice Department, the Federal Trade Commission, or private parties may bring suits that are antitrust in nature. And so the one thing that I have learned after the Michigan Dental Association was sued for antitrust issues by Smile Direct Club was that you certainly don't need to be guilty of anything to have a lawsuit brought against you. But that lawsuit ended up getting dropped. So I guess all's well that ends well. Two dentists in the same practice can be guilty of antitrust if they are not sharing financial and practice ownership together. So the answer to the question below is yes, they can be. Let's talk just a little bit about conflict of interest. We do have a policy and a form that you will be asked to sign every year as a volunteer to disclose any potential conflict of interest. Aspects associated with this have to do with a personal or professional conflict with a fiduciary duty to the MDA, recognizing that you would not want to be using information gained through your volunteer service for personal gain or advantage or to the detriment of the MDA or that position for that same purpose, or using or disclosing any non-public, confidential, or proprietary information. So you will receive that form if you haven't already, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask your director. Key questions for you when it comes to COI is, Do you have a known or perceived conflict? What are personal or professional interests? What is personal gain or advantage? What is detriment to the MDA? What is using or disclosing information? Those are the key concepts, and if you understand those, you will be in good shape to fill out your form. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a second. Because I'm sharing my screen, I cannot see the Q&A. So I am going to ask Jennifer to advise me if we need to stop and answer any questions. Great, I'm seeing no open questions. That's great. Thank you so much. I found the place that I needed to look. And we're about halfway through, so I think I can guarantee you we are going to be done a little early. So let's talk about good governance. I just wanted to put forward for you the MDA core values that govern our governance outlook. One is that volunteers abide by ethical standards. I think this is so true for dentists overall. Having worked in other kinds of organizations, I'm very proud to say that I feel that dentists are among the most ethical of all professionals that I'm aware of, and the code of ethics is really taken very seriously by every dentist. So as a result, it spills over into their outlook on life. Here, in terms of core values, we're also aiming to be a proactive organization, not a reactive organization. We're dedicated to openness with a commitment to transparency and sharing information. We really do think that members are our owners. We definitely want to make our members proud of their membership in the Michigan Dental Association. Trustees are all fiduciary to the MDA, and we understand and recognize how important it is to good governance to have a diversity of viewpoints at the table. We also know that it's important that our results align with, and what we do actually align with what we're setting out to do. So let's talk real briefly in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, we do have a new committee for DEI this year. I'm very, very pleased to see how well that all came together. And we recently had a conversation with a member who brought up this very question about what is equity. I think people understand that diversity means, in a lot of ways, counting up. You know, how diverse are we? You can count 1, 2, 3, 4 of different kinds of people, and that equals diversity. Inclusion, however, you know, is more a matter of everyone counting, not counting everyone. And then when you look at equity, it is about not doing everything exactly the same for each and every person, but ensuring that people get what they need in order to be successful. And in the MDA, where the goal is and our mission is to help our member dentists succeed, we recognize that that will vary from dentist to dentist. So you can see here, all the people on the left are being treated equally. All the people on the right, that is more of an equitable standpoint, because in order for everybody to see the playing field, it takes different things for different people. Barriers to good decisions. Overall, our committees do an excellent job of evaluating opportunity, looking at options, being very thorough, keeping the member's point of view in mind. You know, I've been very impressed no matter what committee I have been visiting with. But there are some common barriers to good decisions that any human being can become prey to. So I just wanted to mention those to you so that you can keep a lookout for that if this ever occurs in your committee discussions. One is the assumption that what everybody knows is actually true. Conventional wisdom is not always true, and it's good to sometimes question, how true are these long accepted facts? Another barrier is the idea that what you see is all there is. Often, if you don't seek out additional information, if you only accept the information that comes to you easily, you can make the error in thinking that what you happen to know is all there is to know. Confirmation bias goes to the tendency to notice those things that you agree with more frequently than the things that you disagree with. Groupthink is something that I think a lot of people know about, and it is a definite thing that even very highly functional groups can be prey to. When you're really, really loving the interaction with your fellow committee members, rushing to consensus can sometimes happen very easily, even if you should be asking tougher questions. Time pressure is the one that I think I've seen most frequently, and I bet you have too, where you only have a certain amount of time to make a decision, or you have a very packed agenda. So time pressure can result in wanting you to kind of tick things off a list as opposed to sometimes giving things the time that they need to take. Micromanagement is something that can happen if you get too far into the weeds. And then, of course, the kiss of death is probably the idea of politics and cliques. It's like, if so-and-so loves it, it's got to be bad, or he likes it, so I agree. So these are all potential barriers to good decisions for you and for your committees, and really in life. So let's talk now, I think it's about the committee operating manual. I'm going to check real quickly again to make sure I don't have anything in the Q&A. Nope, not seeing anything. So talking about the governance hierarchy, in terms of what governs what is done. Obviously, you're not allowed to break the law. That's the very first thing. That's the basis. Then our bylaws are what hold. Third is manuals, in other words, policy manuals like the committee operating manual. Fourth would be board actions. And then fifth, if everything else is silent, we will look to parliamentary procedure for how to address governance issues, the process. Okay, let's talk for a second here about the relationships between the committees and other organizations, particularly the Board of Trustees. All the committees are advisory to the Board of Trustees, not the House committees, obviously, but the MDA standing committees and the board committees themselves. There's a document that gets put forward every year that the board approves that is called the scope. So every committee has a scope document, and that scope document will lay out the makeup of the committee, why it exists, what its authority is, and what the board would like the committee to look at over the coming year. One comment related to authority I wanted you to know is that although committees are advisory to the Board of Trustees, sometimes the board will actually delegate authority to a particular committee for a specific thing. So for example, the Committee on Continuing Education has the authority to develop programs, continuing education programs, within the established budget. And every little decision that they make regarding programs, speakers, pricing, et cetera, does not have to go to the board. Any committee can bring any idea forward that is connected to its scope for board consideration. In addition, we do call upon committee members to be an official spokesperson for the Michigan Dental Association on particular topics. if it's designated within the policy. So it would not be unusual for if we had media covering a particular access issue, for example, for the chair of the Committee on Access to be designated as a spokesperson for a particular thing. I also wanted to mention that, you're going to develop, if you haven't already, a great relationship with the staff person who supports the committee that you sit on. Often staff have multiple responsibilities or multiple committees that they serve, and they also have a lot of additional work that is not committee related. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. The committees do submit reports to the board based on committee action. You guys are all welcome to send representatives to board meetings, particularly if you have business that is coming before the board. Your committee may have a board liaison. And sometimes that occurs because the committee has asked for it, and sometimes that has occurred because the board thinks that it would be a useful thing to do. Once your recommendation is made to the board, generally speaking, the board will often accept the committee recommendation, but they may approve it, revise it, refer it, postpone it, or even defeat the recommendation. And as I mentioned earlier, the board is certainly not there to do the committee's work for them, but the board often does have a broader perspective than the committee does. You may wonder about your committee's budget, the finances. Our MDA budget is on a calendar year, and the budgeting starts in the spring, and the budget is finalized in September or October. Committee input into the MDA budget is encouraged, and the board is responsible for all financial management, budget, and dues. So upon occasion, we will sometimes see a committee wants to undertake a new initiative that has a financial implication. Often that will go through if it's a great idea and finances are such that we can do it. That proposed budget may be approved just as it's submitted, or it may be revised. In between budget years, I just want you to know if there's an opportunity or an issue that you want to bring forward as a committee that is within your scope, that doesn't have to wait for the next year. A committee can always bring forward a recommendation for action by the board at an upcoming board meeting, or if it is under a certain dollar value, the executive committee may take action on it. So just wanted you to be aware that that is something that you have the opportunity to influence. So thank you. We're getting down to the end here. When it comes to leadership resources, I just want you to be aware also of the various resources that are available to you as a volunteer. If you go onto the MDA website, michigandental.org, you'll see that we have a section called Leadership Central. It's a great resource, an opportunity for people who are not currently involved as a volunteer to get involved, a place where anyone can gain some leadership skills or improve their understanding of MDA governance. It's also where we warehouse and compile and archive minutes and past actions. And it's a great place to send other people for more information. You all are already involved in volunteer leadership, and you know a lot of people you went to school with, people that you practice with, people who you're friends with through your component or elsewhere within the state of Michigan. And every month we get multiple people who send forward and complete a volunteer interest form. And it's a really easy to fill out form that helps people say, hey, I'd like to get involved. Here's what I'm interested in. And Jennifer, who's actually coordinating this webinar tonight, is the person who parcels those volunteer interest forms out to the various committees. And it is a great source of finding folks who would like to get more involved. So my ask for you today is, if you know people who, even if they have only a little bit of time to give, please feel free to encourage them to submit a volunteer interest form, or contact us at the Michigan Dental Association. Information about your committee. Wanted to just address this briefly. This is a kind of reinforcing what we talked about. Committees are consistent in composition. Consultants, your committee may have consultants, and they are appointed on the basis of needed expertise or perspective. As I mentioned, the purpose of committees is to assist the board. And as I mentioned also, authority is usually advisory, but some committees have delegated responsibilities. Duties are the ongoing responsibilities, and charges are what the board has asked you to do this year. In your first committee meeting of the year, your committee chair and committee director will go over your committee scope with you. People wonder, what about subcommittees? Do they require approval? Can we do a work group? Can we do a subcommittee? Your committee chair can appoint subcommittees if they're needed, and committee members and approved consultants may serve on subcommittees as appointed. The president needs to be asked if you're going to start adding people to a subcommittee, and the subcommittee can't go directly to the board, really needs to go through the full committee. Subcommittees do expire at the end of the leadership year, which is when the House of Delegates meets, or when the work is complete. So if you have any questions, or you have an existing subcommittee that needs to be reappointed, that's certainly something that's very easy to do. So that is the end of our discussion today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just go back to our regular presentation. I'll take a minute. I want to say thanks to everybody who has been with us this whole time. We do have almost 50 people on the participant list. Actually, I don't want to fudge, it's 44, and that includes me. Any questions from anyone or any comments that you'd like to make, you should feel free to put it in the Q&A. Well, seeing none, I'm going to say thanks again for being with us tonight. As I mentioned, this will be has been recorded and it will be archived, so we will send out the link to everyone on a committee so that they can view it if they wish to decide. I see Eric Knudsen, thank you. I thought I had a question. It's Dr. Knudsen saying, nice job to Karen, so I appreciate that. We'll also send out the slide deck in case you have any other, want to refer back to anything. So thank you so much to everybody for joining us. I appreciate it and have a wonderful evening. Good night now.